Good evening, and thank you for joining us for our presentation on how to start a green team in your congregation. We have an excellent panel this evening of people who have done this and are willing to share their expertise with you. Our first speaker will be Doug Bell from the Citizens Climate Lobby.
Hi there. Joey, I had to drop off for a second. Can you give me host again?
Should be good to go.
I'll try again. There we go. Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. Basically, this is what these are a series of good steps for you to build your green team at your house of worship. Let's say you are by yourself and you'd like to start a sustainability program at your house of worship. These are some good steps, and I'm looking at it not only from a procedural point, but also from a political point, because you are dealing with people and politics come into play. So that's what this is about. So what's your first step? Sit down, think about it before you do anything else. Have a plan that has multiple steps. What is important to you? What is important to your contacts? What conversations have you heard? Articles in the newsletter? What do you hear people in your house of worship talking about? Determining this will help guide you through this process so that when you begin to have ideas, you're not out in left field and everybody else is out right field. You want to be in the same area of the field that they're in. First off, find some allies. You don't want to do this all by yourself, because the more people that are involved in the project, the more credibility it will have. And also your allies will give you feedback on what others are thinking. Let's say there's some negative feedback or positive feedback. Person B will hear about it and will come back to you with that. How do you find your allies for your green team? Are there other green initiatives in your house of worship? Is someone already running a recycling program? Maybe they'd want to join your committee. Is someone composting kitchen scraps? Do you have sustainable landscaping, and who made that decision? You want to make them a part of your team. Another way, are they active in another environmental organization? They may not even be terribly active at your place, but if they belong to the Sierra Club or Citizens Climate Lobby or something like that, they would be a good person to talk to. Have they shown an environmental interest in their personal life? Did they buy an electric car or put solar panels on their house? Youth groups are very enthusiastic and very persuasive, and they're very green and very concerned about sustainability and climate change. Just know that, they're teenagers and dependability is kind of shaky sometimes, but they're very enthusiastic. Form your team. Even if it's just two people have more credibility than one. And that's one thing you need to build for your effort, is credibility and justification. So people will take it seriously and they're more willing to give you their time. So even if you only have two people, you need to have at least two. When you're first beginning to think this through, there are several sources of helpful instructions on how to form a green team and initiate some sustainability projects. You can look on the internet and find at least 40. Some are more detailed than others, and they run anywhere from 10 pages to 50 pages. My advice, 10 to 15 pages is going to be enough for you to start. But two excellent ones is Interfaith Power and Light, and also Green Faith. Determine who are the decision makers in your house of worship. And it's not always the most obvious person or the one with the title. Volunteer organizations are sometimes like pirate ships. Decisions are often made by informal consensus or by people below the decks who don't actually have a title. For instance, at my church, we had a very major project that was ready to go, and it was canceled by some secret star chamber, and we still don't know who they were. Literally, we don't know who it was, but they canceled it. Secondly, Be sure to get agreement from your facilities committee before going too far. Your team needs to get their buy-in early. You know, who's in charge of the heating and the air conditioning? Who pays the utility bills? Who sets up the snow plowing in the winter? That group, you need their buy-in early. If you don't get their green light, they may feel like you're stepping on their turf, and you'll immediately get some pushback. Approach committee lead chairs or project leaders one-on-one. You know, maybe have coffee. Just say, I want to make sure I don't step on your toes. This is what I'm thinking. Give me some feedback. And by asking for feedback, they'll know you take them seriously, and they're more likely to take you seriously. Be sure the paid staff agrees, but keep in mind they're already very busy. You know, there's not a house of worship out there. The staff is too much time and not enough work. They've already got enough on their plates, but just keep them informed and make sure they're considering where you're going. Don't assume buy-in. Sustainability is a great idea. Recycling, all of that stuff, but don't assume everyone will quickly get on board with your program. And here are some legitimate reasons. Some may be politically conservative. You know, they may not believe in climate change. They may not even believe in insulation or recycling. They may be worried that your project will take resources or money away from their project. Let's say Susan is running a food bank out of your church basement. Well, if you start taking dollars and people to your team, that may make things kind of skinny on her side. And that's a very legitimate concern that she and anyone else would have, is this new team is taking dollars out of the budget and they're taking people, and it's making it harder for me to find people to work with me. And that's legitimate. Many people just don't want to be bothered. They're already overcommitted or burned out. Next thing, so you've got the buy-in, you've made your allies, you've set up your relationships, get your team to agree on a focus. You know, maybe as time goes on, it grows, you're going to add more things, but let's start off just by focusing on one thing. Here's some suggestions: political activism, reducing your building's energy usage, overall reduction in your impact. That includes things like landscaping and water runoff, in addition to the energy usage, social or environmental justice. For most people, the energy usage is more successful because if you can save your house of worship money, you're going to get some fans and people are going to like what you're doing. So I would recommend starting off with your building's energy usage, but all four of these are legitimate. Start with a low-hanging fruit. Why? That builds up that buy-in, it builds up that credibility. You know, it says Doug is doing something worthwhile. Maybe I'll go to his meeting. The staff is more willing to give you some of their limited time if you've proven your value. Has to be easy to accomplish, and it has to have a good return on investment. So you want to invest $1, you want to get way more than $1 back in energy savings. If none exist, if there aren't any low-hanging fruits, start with an easy win. That gives your team momentum, visibility, and I'm saying again, it'll give your team credibility. Widely advertise your first success. Bulletin, Facebook, newsletter. You continually have to prove your worth to the house of worship, and justify the resources that you are using. You know, so many other committees don't have to do that because they've been around for 5 or 10 or 15 years, where you're brand new and you need to prove your worth and value. Keep advertising your success whenever you can. Continuously justify your expenditure of money and people, and explain your impact. If you saved money, that comes first. You know, it's real world here. Return on investment and payback period. Carbon dioxide reduction is a good way. You need to be sensitive to the politics of your house of worship. Maybe you don't want to talk about climate change. That's okay. Let's just talk about reducing our electricity usage and how much money we're saving. Impact on the community, and also talk about the spiritual aspect. And there, I'm done. CJ, I think you're muted.
Thank you, Doug. We appreciate that very much. Our next speaker is Joanne Gerson, who represents the Jewish community from Rockdale Temple. Joanne?
Well, thank you, CJ. So I'm setting up my screen and it's not going, there it is. Okay, can you see that? Good. All right. So, when our rabbi scheduled the first ever mitzvah palooza event in 2008, there were various actions in the announcement, all worthy acts of kindness or mitzvah. However, there were no environmental actions listed. So I asked the rabbi about that. And she said, no one volunteered to organize an environmental action. So I raised my hand and volunteered. And I will tell the story of how we formed our team, what we did, and what I recommend. I had no idea if anybody at Rockdale was interested in the environment. So now it's not advancing. Let me try something else. My slides are not advancing. Let me try it here. All right, that works. So I created a game, a challenge, a Jeopardy style environmental game with a prize for the winner. And on the day of the Mitzvah Palooza event, 12 people showed up to play. And at the end of the game, I asked if they would be interested in meeting again to talk about what we can do at Rockdale. And they said, absolutely. The result, the new Rockdale Environmental Committee is still going on strong today. This was a fun and spontaneous way to find like-minded people that are excited to work together. Every year we organize at least 4 programs and publish articles about the projects in our temple bulletin. Here we are giving locally grown plants to Sunday school children. The plants were grown by a member of our congregation. So I learned some basics. Understand the structure of your congregation, make your case a moral issue, find your choir, your green team, and build relationships, focus on easy environmental actions not labeled climate change, and do the heavy lifting, not the staff. These are things that, in fact, Doug has emphasized. So our very first action was to fix the old commercial dishwasher in the kitchen. And soon our rabbi found out that the Maisonette restaurant, maybe you remember it, was auctioning off their old dishes, flatware, and glasses. And so she went and she bought them all. And now we are very classy indeed. We no longer use paper and plastic serviceware. Next, we created a recycling program. And in 2010, we received the Hamilton County Recycling Award, their first for a religious organization. We got an energy audit through a grant. The temple raised money to retrofit the building with LED fixtures and motion sensors in restrooms, temperature controls for the rooms not used during the week, all per recommendations in the audit. Our Go Green Challenge created buy-in and awareness in the congregation. We distributed these cards that we made to all the temple members, encouraging them to take the challenge. We tracked their results, which were published in the temple bulletin. One member, Anita Marks, created this quilt. It was such a wonderful surprise. And on each palm tree leaf is printed the name of the challenge from the Go Green Challenge card that I just showed you. The white tape in the center of the trunk was moved up as more people turned in their completed cards. Our Go Green Challenge logged over 50% of the congregation. Temple members joined us as we worked to clear honeysuckle and other invasive plants. We published articles in the bulletin about invasive plants and what to do about them. We helped Groundworks plant shrubs and trees to stabilize the Mill Creek, and again wrote articles about the importance of protecting the riparian corridor. Gerald Checo, director of MSD, taught us solutions to sewer backup problem. We learned what we can do to keep stormwater out of area streams, and we raffled off a rain barrel. So shown here is Mr. Checo, of course, with our winner, in this case, Teresa Ames. And so again, we wrote an article to teach people about the importance of protecting our streams. As described in Leviticus, every 7 years, we are to give the land a rest. This year is the Shemitah year. So we collaborated with other temple committees. The women's group hosted 5 Israeli vegetarian cooking classes online. We wanted people to feel comfortable eating meatless meals. The finance committee divested from fossil fuel industry. The adult education committee hosted a speaker to explain the COP conference in Glasgow. The book club read the environmental book Grading Sweetgrass. And the Women's Club hosted the vegetarian cooking classes, as I mentioned. And this past Memorial Day weekend, we took 33 campers tent camping at Carter Caves State Park to experience nature up close. We distributed praying mantis egg sacs this year. Every year I mentioned that we gave something to Sunday school children. And this is what we gave to them this year. And you could see people started writing, our babies hatched, our baby hats, lots of emails. And the article informed people how to manage insect pests, including mosquitoes and stink bugs, without using pesticides. This is the 7th year that Rockdale families spent a weekend at an Ohio State Park for a retreat. And this year, the rabbis made the theme of the Shemitah year. Families learned about the Shemitah year and developed new behaviors to be better stewards of the land. All the programs we did were developed by a handful of passionate volunteers. You too can find like-minded people to form a green team. Do not operate alone. Start with an easy, achievable action. Build on your team's success. Get buy-in from staff, the board of directors, and religious leaders. Stay hopeful, but most important, have fun. Please share your events with all of us at Faith Communities Go Green so that we can expand the power of your effort. Post your projects on our Facebook group page. Let's do it together. Visit us at faithcommunitygogreen. Which is an easy website to remember, fcgg.org. And we hope to see you there. And that's the end of my case presentation.
Thank you very much, Joanne. It was an excellent presentation, gave us a lot to think about. Our next speaker is Lori Roche, and Lori is from Bellarmine Chapel at Xavier University. Lori?
Hi, everyone. So, excuse me, this is not at the beginning. So at Bellarmine Chapel, which is on the Xavier University campus, our team is called the Healthy Earth Team. And two takeaways that I'd like to share with you. One is that, as you've seen from the presentation of everyone today, your Care for Creation work will naturally align with every other mission of your congregation, whether it's social justice or your worship service, whatever it may be. And the other takeaway would be that each of you will have a unique path and unique expression. The churches represented at this presentation each have chosen different ways of approaching this. We began our Healthy Earth Team in 2016, and it's very much based on the encyclical of Pope Francis called Laudato Si, on care for our common home. We have about 10 members. We have been growing, increasing interest, which is good. We are fortunate to have staff support. And we organize under these 4 themes that you see here, and I'll go into those in more detail. This is our mission. We really believe strongly that if we help people make the connection from their faith to care for creation, that all of the green actions that we've been talking about and that we hope for will follow. That the faith connection, the concern, the connection, repairing our broken connection with nature and with the environment will inform and motivate people to take the actions that sometimes mean inconvenience. We began with, as I said, in 2018, the Archdiocese of Cincinnati was recognizing parishes for their green efforts, and we were one of 13 parishes in the Archdiocese to win a Laudato Si recognition. And this is, you can see here, some of the things that we started out doing. Our most important initiative so far has been to develop a plan. You can see the cover of it here. And this was a call by the Vatican for all types of Catholic institutions to initiate 7-year plans to actually put the initiatives called for in Laudato Si, to put all of those into action. We worked on our plan, collecting a lot of input from members of the parish and the staff, and we released it in a celebratory way at our annual Earth Day Mass, which is held on the Sunday closest to Earth Day. Here are some of the challenges and strategies. Others have spoken to this, and so I won't go through them, but there is I think it is very important to identify the best path for your community, as I said, which may be different. Ours was very much wrapped into reaching out to the surrounding community of Evanston that is near our congregation. Then you're going to have to be very visible all the time. We use social media a lot and speak from the pulpit a lot. And as Joanne has shown, you really have to keep people aware and connected all the time of what's going on. The other thing that's important, I think, is to make sure when we developed our Laudato Si plan, we went to different ministries within the parish and asked for their input so that it could be understood that this isn't just some silo of the Healthy Earth Team or the Green Team. It's not that it is everyone's responsibility. And if you're working with youth, for example, we wanted people to tell us, well, what are you going to do in your youth education and your youth faith building programs to incorporate care for creation, learning opportunities and initiatives, and fun as well. So this first theme, pray, as I mentioned, we're divided into pray, learn, act, and advocate. This is from our Laudato Si action platform. We're expanding the items that you see at the top there. Our new project is very exciting. We're calling it Embracing God's Creation. And sometimes this might be, for someone starting a green team, it might be a way to start. That's fairly ambitious. We're having a series of talks and sort of field trips, immersion experiences around town beginning in September, We'll have 5 or 6 talks every few weeks. Those will happen. And then this will culminate into a half-day retreat. And it's all based on Laudato Si. And we are involving all the Jesuit works in Cincinnati, which would include Xavier University, Xavier High School, the Spiritual Center, and so on. So we're hoping, and we're developing different measurement tools to see if we're able to move the needle on people's connections. So these are some of the tools that we use for learning. We have an extensive resource page online, as I mentioned, social media. Every month we have green actions in our online newsletter. Meatless meetups were halted during COVID, but those are a group just for fun in vegetarian restaurants around town. I'll move on. This is an example of some of the materials that we use to educate people. On the left, our social mission newsletter, where we have our green action every month. And then we passed out a card with a QR code on it that directed people to another document to try to bring the Laudato Si actions home in people's personal lives, things that they could do. And this was distributed and is always available and is online. And then social media. We have a lot of Facebook posts related to our activities. One of the biggest things that we do, a lot of our path on this has to do with community gardening. We have a large community garden, and the food produce goes to area food pantries. And it's also developing relationships with our neighbors in the Evanston community. Active discipleship days, we just had one yesterday. These bring out more than 100 people from a number of different parishes that we are connected with to do volunteer work in the community, ranging from food pantries to work in our gardens. And so this is one of the paths that we take is very much related to community gardening. We are trying to do more to assess the carbon footprint at our chapel. And for some churches, this is really a path that they've taken. For us, it's a little bit more difficult because we're connected with the Xavier University campus. And so we don't have as much autonomy as to our information we need about our energy use. But we've done some things like replace all our light bulbs with LEDs, and we're doing more. This is just some photos of the Fresh is Better. In that, we've built more than 80 garden beds in people's yards in the community of Evanston. And these community gardeners then grow their own vegetables. And we do a lot of opportunities to build fellowship via potlucks. We're having do garden tours every year. People can show off what they're doing. And it's really built a lot of wonderful community in Evanston. We also have an advocacy platform where we participate in the community networks such as Faith Communities Go Green and other efforts that are working on climate change and environmental protection throughout the city. And we visit with legislatures. We would like to look into and explore fossil fuel divestment from the parish. And I know that Xavier University could possibly be looking into that too. We feel that that's very important. We will have people meet with legislators, sign postcards on various initiatives that we think need advocacy. These are just the values that we developed as part of our Laudato Si action plan. I'm not going to take the time, I don't have the time to read them all, but the main thing is what I said at the beginning, and that is that we are trying to repair what we believe is a broken connection of people with nature and with a feeling of love for nature. Out of that love, out of that sense of responsibility will come the other changes that people need to make for our own survival. So thank you very much. This is 2 people from our food pantry.
Thank you very much, Lori. Again, a lot of wonderful ideas that could be implemented in other places. Our next speaker is John Talmadge from Mount Auburn Presbyterian Church. John?
So, and let's get the presentation up. Okay. So I'm delighted to be here. I'm just so inspired by what I've heard today. It seems that we're all converging on a green path into the future. It's really inspiring. It's just the way this process is supposed to work when we're trying to solve the complex problem of human survival and a sustainable world. I have 8 minutes here to talk to you. I want to begin with a few ideas that we've developed about linking sustainability and faith, and then give you a brief rundown of our process of our green team, which has been in the works and flourishing since about 2009, 2010. I'll give you some program examples and experiences that might be helpful, and then conclude with a few tips and words of advice for people wanting to start a green team. The basic principles that undergird all of our efforts can be reduced to these. Sustainability is the great challenge of our age. It's a complex problem with many dimensions, not a simple problem like making pancakes or a complicated problem like putting a man on the moon, but a complex problem that requires systemic transformation. And how to facilitate that is really the question. Earth is a closed adaptive systems, and viable solutions will be many, collaborative, emergent, ongoing, because we can survive only by surviving, and we have to do what the great religions have always taught us that we need to do: love one another or die. In our quest for a sustainable world, we should, and many of us are already accessing tools that are readily available from our religious traditions: faith, hope, sacrifice, and community. And it's our belief at Mount Auburn, and I see that this is shared with everybody here in this room, that congregations can become seed beds for transformation. So that's what we're trying to do with our green team. In 2011, we drew up a vision statement with these various points. I won't read them, you can see them for yourself. Much of what I've heard today already reflects convergent thinking on the part of other faiths and other congregations. We're all thinking along the same lines, which is inspiring to me. We started small. A bunch of us were interested in this. We started talking to each other. We began meeting informally, and over time, we began to understand who in the congregation was interested. And eventually, one major leader, Pat Tim, emerged. She has amazing administrative abilities. And once we started meeting regularly, she kept us on task. Some of us were interested in efficient energy and began researching. We had an architect and an engineer and a buildings and grounds committee. We looked into the Presbyterian Church's Earth Care program, which we used as a template, but we also decided to go deeper into the theological and ethical dimensions of it. We developed it and adapted it. We launched our program on Earth Day in 2016 and began regular activities, such as are indicated there, to kind of get the congregation at a good, warm operating temperature. And finally, we were able to present a proposal to our session, which was approved. And so this is our program. We have 4 themes, and these were reflected in what I heard from Bellarmine, for example, and to some extent from Rockdale as well: green faith, green learning, green living, and green action. And of course, we achieved Earth Care certification. So we designed our program around these 4 themes, and we always try to do something around the solstices and the equinoxes. So what did we achieve in the first 5 years of our efforts? We developed our grounding theories and ideas in our founding documents. We engaged in networking and guest preaching. We traveled to other churches and shared our ideas. We decided that our green team should not be considered as a committee. We wanted to be informal, insurgent, nimble, and creative. So we decided not to be a committee, but this enabled us to keep working, and our programs eventually and are now, have gone mainstream. We continue to have retreats, field trips, and outreach activities. We had a major initiative to upgrade our energy systems at the building. We put in solar panels, high efficiency windows, heat pumps, and all the lighting was changed out to LED. And during the pandemic, the question, which I'm sure many of you also addressed, is how do we keep things going when people aren't able to meet in person and everybody's in lockdown? So we started publishing an Earth Care newsletter, put up a bulletin board. We have done photo shows. All of these things have helped keep the congregation thinking green and moving in the right direction. So some examples: Green Faith, there's a retreat. We had worship themed with green sermons and music. Here's a Lenten devotional. I call it the Green Card Program, your ticket to ecological citizenship. Every week there was a scripture, a poem, a devotional activity, some sort of learning activity, some sort of outreach, and then finally a green justice activity that people could do. So the Green Card. Some of our green learning, here we had one of our members taught a very successful course on becoming carbon neutral, which eventuated in this handbook. We did a field trip to Fernald Preserve, which is a place where you can actually see a change in the governing paradigm of the age, from the technological sublime and the destructiveness of nuclear war, mutually assured destruction, to a nature center where ecological restoration has brought back lots of wildlife and migrating birds. Fernald is a place where you can actually see it happening. Very inspiring. Green living, as I said, solar panels on the church, energy efficiency, recycling programs, and then green action, various advocacy and demonstrations, the crop walk, the People's Climate Rally, and then field trips to important sites, cultural and historical sites in the area that have to do with honoring the earth, in this case, Fort Ancient. And then during the pandemic, we put out our Earth Care e-zine, which gave people in the congregation an opportunity to write about their experiences and ideas on the theme of the month. In this case, it was the birds. And we had a tremendous response to this. Everybody wanted to get involved and write for us. So we have a wonderful harvest of personal stories and reflections from people in the congregation during this difficult time. And these e-zines were quite popular, and they will be posted on our website, which is currently under construction. So if anybody's interested in getting an inside look at the people and experiences that shaped our green team and our congregation in general, in a few months, it'll probably be fixed and up and running. So I invite you to check it out. So what about going forward? How do we do this? How do we enter into the future as a congregation? We found that it helped to think of our green team as a garden. You know, a lot of people, a lot of things that are here on this slide have already been suggested tonight. I think it comes down to the very bottom line here. Every step in the right direction is worth taking, no matter how small. So hopefully we'll all meet in the future on planet Earth. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, John. And again, an excellent presentation. And I think as you've seen these four presentations, each of them is slightly different, but there are themes running through each of them and something we can all learn from one another. And so we'd like to invite you, if you have any questions, to put them in the chat. If you write them in capital letters, it helps us to see them more easily. If we'd like to just do the gallery view and you'd like to raise your hand, I will call on you also. So if there are any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. James?
Well, as all of you know, one of the issues with congregations generally is money, and how do you finance this? Could each of you just briefly talk about what this has cost, what are some of the costs involved, and how you went about raising the money to do that, and just how you deal with that aspect of it, because the congregation has a lot of priorities in terms of maintenance of the facility, of social justice work, of other things that they're doing. How do you now integrate this new need into budgets that are already inevitably tight?
Okay, John?
I can answer that. In our case, we had a very effective return on investment presentation by our energy experts. And they said, I'll try to do this very quickly and succinctly. They said we're paying Duke Energy $50,000 a year for heating and electricity, heating, air conditioning, and lighting. It will cost $500,000 to completely retrofit our facility, according to the plan that we've come up with. So over a 10-year period, we're going to save, it's going to take 10 years for this investment to pay off before it starts actually earning money for us. So it's basically a 10% return on investment if you can come up with the 500,000 to actually do the installation. That's a pretty good return on investment. We were able to, we had a capital campaign. We built it into the capital campaign as part of a larger suite of goals. We had some money from the endowment, which were essentially, we took a loan from ourselves to do this, and we got some loans as well. So, and of course the savings were immediate. So there was an immediate impact on the annual operating budget.
Thank you, John. Anyone else like to speak to that? Doug?
Yeah, I just want to build on that. We did two things. We also made it part of a capital campaign. And it really wasn't even a part of the discussions. Like the parking lot shot, while we're at it, we have to replace the parking lots. And we just went ahead and made them LED. And the electricity and the lighting system in the sanctuary is failing. Well, while we're at it, let's make them LED. Same thing with all the lights in the classroom. So we kind of lucked out, and our church had a lot of really severe structural problems that had nothing to do with sustainability. And we just piggybacked onto that other capital campaign. And it was barely even a part of the discussion. The trustees committee was very green, and it just got done.
Thank you, Doug. I introduced you as coming from Catholic Climate Covenant, but I don't think you mentioned what tradition you're coming from.
Oh, I'm Methodist. I'm with Church of the
Thank
Savior up in Montgomery.
Thank you. And Kathy, I think you had a question.
There we go. Yeah. First of all, Lori, I want to comment. We have that exact same map in our house. So I know what part of Michigan you enjoy going to.
Thanks, Kathy.
This is something that you mentioned. You mentioned that you are beginning to measure the results of your programs. You want to measure positive behaviors. And I was just wondering, how are you going about doing that?
Well, this is probably what I said was a little confusing. So we are going to do that as part of this Embracing God's Creation eco-spirituality series that's going to start in September. So we are currently constructing for the participants in that series, we are constructing a pre-participation survey and then a post-participation survey. And I don't know that it will necessarily so much focus on what are you doing in the way of recycling or saving energy and so on, although it might. I think it will focus more on, did you experience a sort of an ecological conversion, if you will? That is what we are seeking in people. I'm repeating that we believe that once people reconnect, they will change their behavior based on what they love. And someone also mentioned the moral connection. When people feel a faith connection with nature and with the need to care for our common home, protect it, and we think the other actions will follow. So to answer your question, the survey is being developed now, but we recognize the need to measure to see if we're making any change in people's lives. But I like the ideas that I've seen from Mount Auburn and from Rockdale, where you've got these cards where people are actually checking off things that they're doing, and then you have a little mark in the church where people can everyone can see the progress that people have made in lifestyle change. I think is
Yeah,
really,
it's a great idea.
yeah.
Joanne?
Yeah, I was thinking about the cards, having given this presentation a couple times, and those cards were distributed in 2009, and so we've had 12 to 14 years of trying to educate people. I would love to know if we've had any impact, and so I'm wondering, do we send out the cards again, or do we revise them and send out some kind of a survey, and how do we evaluate, has all this time spent, which has been a lot of time spent by all our volunteers, been worthwhile? So Kathy, I really appreciate that question. I think it's a good and important one. I'd also like to address James' comment about the money. I wish Ken Wright was here. I think he's going to present some information. His church, Advent, I think it's called, now has solar panels, and it's a church that does not have a lot of money. It's in Lincoln Heights, I believe, and they got a grant. So getting grants is really important, but I would love to hear. I hope he's willing to write more about how he got that grant. For Rockdale, we are part of the JCC. We lease, our building is leased from the J. That's a history. It used to be just all Rockdale, and so now it's been taken over by the J. So as the same that Lori was talking about, we don't have that kind of control, but we could change our light bulbs and put in sensors and so on and so forth. So we were at High Holidays, we asked people to make donations, and we raised $11,000, which was enough to pay not only for changing all the bulbs in the building, but also to put in the sensors in the bathrooms and do low flow toilets and water sinks, that sort of thing.
Thank you, Joanne. Any other?
I just wanted to mention also, if it's okay, on this, there are, somebody had a question in the chat about government grants or other. There are grants. We've received several small grants, in the $1,000, $1,500 range for various things. And we recently received a $1,000 grant to help us with this Embracing God's Creation series, for example. So they are available. Some we've gotten from the City of Cincinnati Office of Sustainability. And I can't cite all the details, but I know that there are some available for sure.
James,
And we have grants listed on our under the toolkit. There's a whole section for grants. And one is James can speak to, is or CJ, on the collaboration grant from Interfaith Cincy. But there are other grants listed there, so that it's a resource that people can look at.
Right, that's on our FCGG website. And James, I was just going to ask you if you wanted to mention the
Yeah,
collaboration grant.
I mean, currently what that grant is designed to do is to get different faith communities from different traditions to actually collaborate on projects. And so, I mean, what we're trying to fund is interfaith collaboration, but we're in the process of rethinking it and adding another kind of grant category, which is to say that if you need some seed money to begin to invest in facility transformation or other things, forming a green team, that we might be open to doing that as well. And that in the past, really what we've been funding is interfaith collaboration. We really believe there's strength in numbers, there's strength in collaboration. And so we're trying to, and we believe that interfaith dialogue is important, but we believe that interfaith social capital, in other words, actually working together, is even more important. And I always say you begin in dialogue, but if you go do a project together, you return to dialogue, but the conversation has changed.
Yeah.
Because you're not beginning with difference, you're beginning with what you have in common. And you're getting back to that. So we'll continue with the collaboration grants. And if any of your congregations can partner with another tradition, those grants are open, but we're also now thinking about developing some environmental grant money within Interfaith Cincy, and we'll announce that as that happens. And when Joanne talks about the website, as CJ has pointed out, it's fcgg.org, and that's where all that will be collected. Interfaith Cincy is just interfaithcincy.org. We collect a lot of information there as well. So, and when Joanne talks about the J in the JCC, she means the Jewish Community Center. just for those who don't know. So, if you have any questions, you can find me, James Buchanan JP at Xavier, or on the FCC website, and just write me with questions about the grants, and I can give you information about those.
John, did you want to say something?
I just have a footnote to add about the cost of stuff like this. In our case, we found that most of what we've done, the lion's share, excluding the energy upgrades, hardly cost any money at all, because people basically jumped in and lent their expertise. We leveraged a lot of in-house expertise and enthusiasm to do what we did. So most of the most interesting stuff hasn't cost us anything in terms of cash. Our committee, our team has a budget, but we almost never spend it. Because
well, we don't. One idea that I've had and have suggested to congregations is that people are contributing to their faith community, to their church or their synagogue or their temple or whatever. Why not start a small sustainability fund? And so that people could say, well, I'm giving this much, but I want 10% of that to go into the sustainability fund. And if you do an energy audit and you have a sort of long-term plan, and a lot of what you're talking about is just long-term thinking, is getting out of the short-term cycles and thinking in a 10-year block. But if you have a 10-year plan and you say, well, we want to do the LED lights, that's low-hanging fruit, then we want to think about something else, and then maybe solar panels or landscaping, and you know what the general costs of those are, you could create a small sustainability fund, and when it reaches a certain point, you move to that project.
Right.
And also, if you're going to write grants, having that seed money often makes a big difference in getting the grants.
Yeah.
I just throw out one note. Two things. Another alternative is to think of getting a loan. There are some banks or institutions that will provide cheap loans specifically for energy efficiency. And if it's done effectively, the money you save on your energy bill every month will more than pay for the loan payment. You'll be in gravy until you're finished. I've been out of the industry for a few years, so I'm not sure which ones, but you can look up green loans. Banks offer them, nonprofits offer them, or you can set up a revolving fund at your institution to do that. The second thing was, though, I want to offer a warning on in-house workers. I worked in the home insulation industry for several years, and a lot of things can be done in-house, but when it comes to air sealing and insulation, you really want to get the pros, because if you do it wrong, you might waste your money, or even worse, we've seen people create mold problems while doing the air sealing, the insulation incorrectly. So that's one area you really need the pros to come in and do it for you.
Okay, well, again, I'd like to thank all of you for participating this evening, and just end by saying that we are part of a much larger international movement towards bringing the moral voice to sustainability. The Faith for Earth initiative that has been initiated between the UN Environment Program and the World Parliament of Religions is asking every faith community in the world to look at sustainability in their own area, but also to bring their voices collectively to their governments, to their institutions, so that collectively we can make a difference. So I thank you all very much for participating this evening. I thank all of those of you who came to hear what we have to say. And if you have any questions, please contact any of us, go to our website. We'll be more than happy to share any responses with you. Thank you very much. And thank you, Joey, for taking care of the
Namaste.
technology behind the scenes.
Thanks, everyone. Go in peace.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.